When you hear the words self-defense, people have many different connotations. Some people say to me, oh, that means Krav Maga. That must mean violence. When you say it in Hebrew, it's Haganat Tzmit. So many people think about the army, and they think about hand-to-hand combat. Or they'll have certain visions of movies they've been in. And while the defense and the use of the martial arts is often thought of as something very physical and confrontational, self-defense in the way that I've been teaching it is actually quite empowering and has given me an opportunity to reflect on many different parts of the political landscape in Israel. I made Aliyah in 2003. I have 5 children between the ages of 9 and 19. I live in a settlement called Kochav Yaakov in the Binyamin region. I divorced in 2009, and through the process of my divorce, I came back to what was actually my roots. I went back to what I had done when I was a teenager. I went back to my training in martial arts and became an instructor, a self-defense instructor. And in that process, I became exposed to the length and breadth of the country, from the Kiryah near Haifa to the Muslim community in the Old City. I was giving sadna'ot to women on self-defense and from all walks of life. And I needed to speak in Hebrew and in English as well. Sometimes I had translators into Arabic. And from that, I was able to actually acclimate into the country. I don't have family here. Coming from that perspective, I suddenly understood the country that I lived in differently. When I came to Israel in 2003, I think I was 8 months pregnant with my 4th child, post the Twin Towers. And there was a sentiment in America at the time of somewhat of the apocalypse. There was a sense that things were, where to go now? And the step that seemed natural to take at the time was to come to Israel. And frankly, moving to the settlements made perfect sense. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something that has inherent meaning. And this is what I always believed in. This is the religious Zionism that I was raised with. And moving to Israel made a lot of sense. And it did, and it does. As I started to work with different communities, I realized that, in fact, everybody didn't see the same worldview as me. And interestingly, I remember I had a sadna, I had a session that I needed to teach in Sheikh al-Jarab in East Jerusalem, the day after the Fogel attack. The Fogel massacre, is it 5 years ago? And I showed up to the class. I came and was truly stunned. I was imagining these women in front of me. What in the world can I give to them? Do I belong here? Should I be here? Do we have any common ground at this point? The class went on, teaching about boundaries, teaching about our freedom as women, but in humanity, to say no when something intuitively doesn't feel right, being aware of our sense of discomfort is actually something that we're all given. And when that happens, what are our tools? What are our tools to assert to somebody else that, in fact, I am not comfortable? We have verbal ways of saying no. We have physical ways of saying no. And we have techniques in every respect. Enjoyed the class immensely. I made connections. I made connections to some of the translators of the class that I still have connections now with Israeli Arabs that I otherwise would never have had. And I realized that this theme of boundaries in this country keeps repeating itself in every different way. Boundaries is a very interesting place to be, and maybe part of the reason why I felt compelled to live on the in the periphery, so to speak, on the edge of a conflict. An immense amount of creativity that occurs at a juncture, at a place of, nobody wants to live in a place of constant danger, but of a place of conflict. Amazing things can emerge. I see it in the types of interactions that I can have because I've had such I've been able to be exposed to so many different people in the country. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the principles of self-defense that I think are relevant in everything that we do. When you have a sense that somebody is over את הגבול, they're going over your comfort zone, the first thing we say is to state what is going on. I am feeling uncomfortable with the way you're treating me. You're touching me in such a way. The next thing to do is to say how you feel. In most contexts, let's say in civilization, in society, people do acknowledge your right to a feeling if you assert it. And you can simply say, I'm uncomfortable. And then the third thing to do is to say what you'd like to change. You can, please take your hand away, move your hand, speak to me differently next time. We speak a lot about eye contact, about sfat guf, about your posture, and we find that this is something that's universal. This is the way people, everybody can relate to this sense, these principles. Yet because we've been socialized as women, we've lost the right to say no when we feel uncomfortable. Some women walk around with an essential discomfort, a sense that they don't have the right to walk in their space, to stand up for the things they believe, to dress the way they feel, to say the things that they feel are important to say. When I teach these classes, these things are accepted intellectually. When they actually need to be turned into practice, they're very difficult. I notice how hard it is for people to take these very simple skills of saying no and saying, I don't want this. How difficult it is, how challenging it is. And I've wondered how would it be for us to use these principles of self-defense in our interactions with people who are very different from us, people who don't share the same worldview. And I've practiced this with people in different communities, and in fact, I think, again, if we work from a position of something is making me uncomfortable, let me try simply to express what that feeling is. That in itself is it can be revolutionary. Because sometimes we really don't know. It could be something that we were taught. It could be something that's getting triggered. It needs to be expressed in some way for somebody else to be able to respond to it. To then say, what, it's the feeling, it's making me angry, it's making me uncomfortable, suddenly something that was inherently wrong now has a boundary, it has a line. I know where I am, and I know where the other person is. And the final thing is, again, a choice that is not self-evident. What do I want to change? What do I need? If it is that I simply do not have the physical space, I don't have the psychic space that I need in order to function, that's a choice that I need to consider. Crying may not be the solution in this situation. A physical technique probably is not the solution in most cases in society. That choice of how we respond to things that make us uncomfortable and learning it in a framework of difference, as opposed to just working in a framework of people who are similar to us. When women as a whole come together and recognize the commonality of these issues. I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.